Alright, so here's what I decided to do to see if I could improve the situation from the bottom side. So I went ahead and took cut all the tacks and peeled everything back to where the chines begin, and going ahead and stuck in the bulkhead, obviously not the whole thing. As the instructions say, to put in the toe kick, it's part of forming and shaping, it alludes to that. So obviously if you buy the bulkhead, and because I didn't buy the bulkhead, I didn't get the toe kick, or because I did buy the bulkhead, I did not get the toe kick. So obviously you can't install the bulkhead before you do the front of the boat. Especially the lid, which is the last component you got to put on after you get all this shaped out. So I suppose if you did the bulkhead, one way to try it, and I don't know if it would work or not, is to put it in at this stage, go ahead and tack up the rest of it, and then finish off all the welding in the front before you put the lid on. That doesn't seem to make sense to what the instructions are telling you. So, they certainly don't lead you to think that that's the right thing to do, and I don't see how it would be. So, I just cut the bulkhead to where it went all the way out over the chines. And I'm going to hope that they cut this bulkhead to match what the shape of the hole is supposed to be and the angle of the chines, because it has that built into it. So to get that in flush, you have to put a lot of down pressure on those sides. So I put one of these heavy flipping straps on there, put a block of wood in the middle after I had the chines off, because it would just rip your chines down. I ended up having to actually use that crowbar on the strap to get it tight enough to drop the sides and get that piece in there and make things flush. I also just cut out these welds at the front of the engine bearers because they were going to keep things from bending here, or moving. The way the instruction talks is like, oh, you quit welding up here when it gets too wide of a gap to weld. Well, that's not even that wide of a gap, and it was even less before I put the bulkhead or the toe kick in. So, whatever that is, I don't know. I mean, is it supposed to be, so thick right here of a gap that you can't weld it or tack it? If that's the case, well, why wasn't mine that way? I don't know. You're supposed to tack it right up to there, about 8 inches before the end. So, anyway, that's what I got. It obviously spread it out and widened it. And there are these CNC cut marks right here. They're about a 1/4 inch wide half circle. So you don't have a tight mark like any of the marks, even on the transom in the back on the outer hull plates. You line up the transom with those marks. I'm just going for the center of the marks because it's the center of a 1/4 inch. It's not a tight mark. It's not like this is the spot it needs to be. It's just this big half circle. So, I talked about CNC marks. The instructions do on the front deck for putting your stringers on. Those aren't there, but they give you the measurements for it. That's not as big a deal because your stringers aren't, I mean, they are bowed, and you do bow the deck when you put the stringers on. I just started in the front and I pulled them down as I went to the back, doing the center one first and then spreading it out from there left and right. So you know, I wouldn't fret about, you know, how big the marks are if things are working out, you know. You know, you can tell they didn't spend much time on those instructions. You know, if they really wanted people to buy boat kits and put them together themselves, or, you know, if I were doing that and I didn't really want them to buy them, I would just make it hard for people, you know, and that's essentially what they're doing here. They don't clarify things. Oh, you sell a bulkhead, but if someone buys the bulkhead, they don't have the toe kick to help form the bottom. What your instructions say is what you're doing with the toe kick. You know, oh, you're welding the hole inside and out is after your deck is on. What are we doing with that bulkhead? You know, so anyway, obviously this whole thing's pissed me off, but it's like, well, I would hope normal people would get pissed off. This is what they come into, and this isn't what they would expect to start out with when they buy a kit that says no special tooling or jigs necessary. It's like, yeah, you don't need special tooling or jigs for anything. You only need them if you want it turning out well and going right the first time. So no special jigs or, you know, tools needed. So anyway, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to put this other chine on. At least I know halfway up I got the chine angle that theoretically, if that's cut, that CNC cuts the right angle, I got the right chine angle there, and theoretically back at where the outer hull panel's chine ends, which is the bend. Obviously that one was too low because it's got a dip right there, and you can see it's overbent. You know, we'll see if the sides change at all, you know, once I get this all together. I don't think there's going to be that big of a difference, but this did have the potential of squaring up the boat in the front. You know, obviously there's bend issues, but we'll see what happens when I get this together. You know, maybe these panels will come together better in the front. You know, it looks like this chine is still past center, but you know, I purposely did everything I could to get it to be as far out, you know, including spreading the boat right there. That was the biggest change, and these did move in. I don't have a huge gap here, but this is still slightly over center. So to make these match up, you know, at least this one will have to be cut. We'll see what the other one looks like. You know, and this is the original. You know, I did tack it, but I could tell where the original line was and took it back to that. But every time you tack something and then you have to cut the tack and then you have to clean it up, you're just weakening the whole thing. You know, because you have to clean up your metal again, because you know, over and over again. If you have to do this, obviously you can just fill in stuff with metal, you know. It sure would be nice to get it right the first time, because it's, you know, it takes hours to cut tacks, you know, pull things back that are under pressure, they're popping out at you, you know, and then clean them all up, you know, and try and get your edges back, because when you're forming these things and you're matching edge to edge, the edges, the CNC cut has a sharp edge on it, and that sharp edge, you know, it actually kind of helps hold it in place. You know, even though it's just right there, it's right at, you know, edge to edge, you know, it does help a little bit. But after you clean up like this, you more or less have rounded edges, which just means it's harder to put back together. So anyway, anybody thinking about building these things, this is what you're looking at. I would definitely, if I got the kit, I would either not get the bulkhead, or I would cut the bulkhead and do this, because it's obvious this section needed to be wider. You know, that's what they told me, is everything tends to want to get narrow and longer, and you need to keep it wider. Well, you know, well, there you go. So if you get the bulkhead, you don't have a toe kick, you're going to have to cut it and put it in, you know, just to keep the boat wider. You know, and that was pretty evident in the front when the deck lid came down. you know, as far as lining up with things. Same with the chines, you know, there was a further gap here, and these were further out. So just widening it there. And that's a lot of pressure, it's not minimal. At that point, without that chine on, at that point, it's a lot of tension to pull that sucker down, you know. And things tend to pull themselves in, well, yeah, because you're stretching flat metal into a curved shape. It wants to straighten out. And without jigs, you know, you don't know how much narrower or wider you are. Obviously, you're not wider. You know, they're not giving you measurements. Okay, if you come back a foot from the tip of the boat and you take a measurement from here to here, this is what you should have. You know, they don't give that to you. So it's just hack and whack, figure it out as you go. Hopefully this video will help people. You know, the design of the boat, as far as I can tell, is good. The size was what I wanted. I don't see other companies making multiple sizes like Watts Craft seems to put out. They've got the most variation of sizes. So anyway, we'll see where this goes. I'll do another video.